Good morning and welcome to Peace Out. We are all learning together to peace out. Boy, do you ever have those domino days? That's what I call it. Now, we have a joke in our family that when there's a day where everything goes wrong, somebody's pregnant who ain't supposed to be pregnant. So I don't have very many of those days, but every once in a while I do, and it's held pretty close to true every time. Anyway, but it seems like the last couple of days have been some domino days. It's just one thing after another, right? And those can be rough days, but man, but since we know now we know 6 years, we are now starting year 7, you guys. It's the last day of March, 2026. We started this around mid-March, 2020, in the middle of the beginning of the pandemic, not knowing what was going on, what was going to happen. And here we are still trusting God. Give yourself a pat on the back. Yay, way to trust God. Way to trust God. Way to go, right? Because we're still trusting him. Are we still a mess? Yeah. In some ways, I am. I can't speak for you. I'm still a mess. I'm a mess every day. I still got stuff going on. I don't have everything figured out. I still make mistakes. I know that's hard to believe. Oh, I hate to disappoint you. Yeah. I still make mistakes. I still mess up. I still make dumb choices. And some days it seems like there's just so much going on that I'm on overload and I'm just going to sit, drink coffee, and stare at the wall for a little bit, right? So there's some days like that. I still have days like that. We're always going to have days like that. We got on overload. Our whole world is on overload. Everything is on overload. We have an overload of information and misinformation, I might add. It's getting harder and harder to tell what's AI, what's true. Most of the time you can kind of tell anyway, but still it's getting harder and harder to tell, even with stories that go across our feed and stuff. And it all just comes back to trusting God. Just trusting God. Let's just trust him. Maybe we'll talk about misinformation tomorrow. I want to talk about a domino day today. Because and what my mind went to, because, yesterday we talked about the children of Israel and how God took them through the wilderness to train them to trust him, basically, and to get that slavery mentality out of them. He provided the food and provided all these things for them as they traveled. And they were cranky, right? And so I want to look at somebody else this morning as I got up, was doing my study this morning with my coffee, by the way. I always have my coffee, always. But as I was studying, thinking back about what we talked about yesterday and my own life, am I taking the complaining out of my life? Am I trusting God? Because I can teach a lesson. I can teach a pretty decent and okay lesson, but I have to go back and say, can I apply it? I believe the Word of God is applicable and practical for today. It doesn't lose its relevancy. We don't have to, we're not going to throw it away and say, well, it doesn't work anymore. No, God still works. He's still on the throne. He's still the same God that brought the children of Israel out of Egypt. He's still the same God that parted the Red Sea, that gave them manna, that made the bitter water sweet, that fed them the quail, that took them across them. Their shoes never wore out. That meant for the young people, because they walked for 40 years, that means their shoes grew with their feet. How crazy is that, right? He took care of them. He's still that same God. So I was thinking about that, and then I thought of somebody who had a very different response to the things going on in their lives. I went to Job this morning, and we know that Job had a domino day, and I don't know of anybody who's had as bad of a domino day as Job, right? He's kind of our symbol or our icon, I guess I'll just say a symbol for a really bad day, because they just kept coming one after another. And it says, as soon as this one finished speaking, the next one was here. Oh, and this. And as soon as this one, your kids are all dead. Your crops are all gone. And then it got worse from there. It even got worse from there. But I love his response. I love his response. His response was when he had that domino day and everything just kept coming on. This went wrong and this went wrong and this, and you lost this, you lost this, you lost this, you lost this, you lost this. His response was it says he stood, I'm still in chapter 1. Job stood up, tore his robe in grief. It's okay to grieve. It's not a sin to grieve a loss, whether that's a person, a relationship, a lifestyle. We talked about that really during the pandemic when we first started this devotional. We started there. It's okay to grieve. We were grieving because of the loss of things. We didn't even know what was going on, right? It's okay to grieve that loss. It says he tore his robe in grief. He shaved his head to show that he was in mourning. He fell to the ground before God and he said this, I came naked into this world. I'm going to go out of this world naked. He said, the Lord has given me everything I had and the Lord has taken it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Can I just be open and honest and say, I've never had that response? I might have worked around to it after a whole lot of time, but my initial response is more like, what are you, hello? Right? That's my initial response. And so Job is just our example here of someone who truly trusted God. I look at this, the total opposite of how the children of Israel come out. They whined and complained about every little thing. God brought us out here to kill us. Every time something went wrong, God just brought us out here to kill us. We are the sacrifice, I guess, because he's going to kill us. And to interpret it, if we wanted to interpret that, that's like, I don't trust God. I don't trust him to preserve me. I don't trust him to take care of me. I don't trust him to protect me. I don't trust him to provide. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. Job says, yeah, all this is gone, but God's name is still blessed. But God is still sitting on his throne. As a matter of fact, later in Job, and first off, we know it's going to get worse for Job. And here he is blessing God's name. He doesn't know it's going to get worse, right? We already read the story. We cheated. But he's going to get sick on top of all of these things. It's going to get worse. And his wife is going to say, hey, curse God and die. This ain't worth it. Why are you holding on to faith, right? He didn't ever complain. He said, I wish I had never been born. But he never complained. He wasn't whining and crying like the children of Israel. Every little thing they were like, oh, God's not even with us. Where did God go? And he had performed all these miracles. We don't have any record that God performed any miracles for Job. And yet Job trusted God, even though he didn't see God's hand. Now he said, God's given me all of this. But later in Job, even after being sick and all that, he says this, even if God kills me, I'm going to trust him. What an opposite. What a total, complete opposite to the children of Israel. Everything that happened, God's just trying to kill us. If God wanted to kill y'all, he would have done it in Egypt. He'd have just said, let's just wipe them out and start with new people. Yeah, right? And there was even one time on their way across the wilderness, God tested Moses with that. And he says, Moses, let's just wipe them all out. And Moses went, no. Then everybody's going to say, you're not strong enough, God, to get them across the whole, you brought them out of Egypt, but you can't take them to the promised land. You know what God, everybody will say about you, God? He said, if you don't take them to the promised land, just kill me. But he interceded for them. But they were always like, God's trying to kill us. And Job was like, even if God kills me, I'm going to trust him. I love this opposite, the contrast of their responses, because they were always whining and crying and think God was going to kill them. And Job was like so trusting, even though this is all bad, I'm still going to trust God. And I probably venture to say that I don't know anybody that's had it as bad as Job, right? And I've had some bad stuff. You've had some bad stuff. We've had some bad stuff happen. But look at us, here we are, still trusting God, still knowing that God still gave us his peace. And we're going through this wilderness of life, and yet God is providing all along the way. His cloud, the light, is still with us. In the nighttime, the fire of God is still in us. The Holy Spirit is still in us. When it feels like it's nighttime and we can't see, it's almost every day for me right now, right? He's provided food. None of us have starved to death yet, right? Let me know. I'll help you, right? He's provided. He continues to provide, and he's always his peace is right there. He told Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. And he didn't put any exclusionary statements on that. That's still the same God that's carrying us through this wilderness of life. This is still the same God that's with us when everything falls apart, or feels like it's falling apart. Sometimes it just feels like it and doesn't quite get there, and we can be relieved and thankful, right? But it can feel that way. He's still the same God. It's our response. Are we going to think he's trying to kill us every time something bad happens? That might be a lot for some of us, right? Or are we going to just look in the face of things that are happening to us and go, I still trust God? That, my friend, is faith. Faith isn't complicated. It's not if you say the wrong word, God's going to strike you. You're going to, going to bring all this evil on you. Yeah, and I am for guarding my words. I'm going to be positive. I'm for positive confession. I'm for, not saying negative things and not welcoming negativity into my heart and my mind, right? I'm for that. But faith doesn't break just because we break. Job was broken here. He shaved his head, fell to the ground, put ashes on his head later. He tore his robe in grief. He had grief, but that was not a sin, right? That wasn't a lack of faith. Grief and faith can happen at the same time. You may be grieving over a loss and yet reaching out for God with the other, saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but with this hand, I got one hand here. I'm going to reach out for God. This is what I want. I want to reach out for God. I need him in my life. And so I know this is all bad. Maybe I messed it up myself. That's not exclusionary. It doesn't exclude you from reaching out for God and having faith and trusting God, even if you made the mess yourself. We got too many examples. David, gosh, I saw all these examples in scriptures. God never threw someone away that was messed up and still reaching for him. And my favorite example is Rahab the believer. I know all through the Bible, they're still going to put that negative tag on her, but she was no longer Rahab the harlot. She was Rahab the believer, she's listed twice in the New Testament, one in the lineage of Christ. Wow, blow your mind. God did that? Yeah, he came through. He let her be in the lineage of the Messiah, the one we worship, the one who went to the cross for us. And the other place she's listed 2 or 3 times, but the other place significantly listed is in Hebrews 11, in the Hall of Faith. She was listed. He took what she had because she gave it to him. We can do the same things. And the children of Israel could have easily made their journey so much different, so much better if they'd just gone, you know what, God, I don't know what we're going to eat, but you brought us out of Egypt. We saw all that stuff. I've never seen stuff like that. I'm kind of glad, right? Never seen God's hand like that to bring somebody out of a literal deliverance out of a really land of Egypt and across. But had I seen it, I would like to think I would trust him a little bit more with my now seeing, but I do. What we do have is this. We can look back at our lives and see the milestones in our lives where God brought me through that. I don't know how he did, but I came through that. He brought me through that. He was with me through that. Surely he's with me through this. And we can just hold on to him. That is faith. It's not the avoidance of bad things. It doesn't mean nothing bad is ever going to happen and we're going to be in total control and everything's going to be perfect and, we're going to be butterflies and happy coffee. There's always coffee in a perfect setting, right? And it's butterflies and coffee in a perfect setting. No, it's not always that way. But we do know that God will not leave us in this wilderness of life. He won't leave us stranded. All we got to do is just keep reaching for him. Job's like, this is bad, but I'm reaching for God. The children of Israel are like, this is bad. Where'd God go? Is he still here? Did he bring us out here? He's trying to kill us, ain't he? Right? Look at those two different attitudes. And they had 40 years of misery, but they brought it on themselves. They didn't have to be miserable. Joshua and Caleb weren't miserable. They were still trusting God. And they got to go to the promised land while everybody else died off in the wilderness. They still had to go through the wilderness, but God got them there, right? So we're not always exempt from life's trials, life's troubles. But in the middle of everything, we can say, you know what? Blessed be the name of the Lord, because God doesn't change no matter what happens in my circumstances. God is still the same faithful God that brought me out of Egypt, that brought me out of sickness, that brought me saved me from dying. Fill in the blank with your story. God's still the same God that's going to see me through today. And that's faith. And that's why we can peace out. Peace out. Have a great day. See you again tomorrow.